in the African nation of Lesotho, which nobody has ever heard of.
Fellas, what's going to follow is going to open your mind about the world in which we live in. You don't understand. But before we get to that, I'd like to share something with you. And I would like your reasoning. I want you to open my mind because that's going to be for the benefit of all of us. Is there something wrong with you changing a decision that apparently was radical after somebody did something negative to you? Is it wrong? Let's put it this way. Somebody gave you a job, an opportunity, and you made money out of it, and then became very disrespectful, taking advantage of you, making you work extra hours, and got to a point of disrespecting your wife by asking her not to call you during work time. And maybe your mother, who is sick, that dearly wanted to speak to you, and by mistake got him on the phone while she was trying to get to you, just for him to tell her, please don't call again. This is not his number. If you don't get him, then wait for him to come home. And you, out of respect for yourself, out of dignity for your mother, you decided to stop working for him. Then a few days later, things are very tough. You end of the month, you have to pay the rent, kids have to go to school. Can you turn back and go and say, listen, I think I'm sorry about me standing up for myself. Express my feelings towards you on when you spoke about my mother like that. Surely, I'm sorry. I need the job. I want to work. It's okay. If you want to continue the disrespect, you can continue. Just don't do it in front of me, and I really, really need the job. Would you do that? Is that acceptable or not? Well, fellas, Lesotho is under pressure to approve Starlink license. We've spoken about this, and I told you this before. Lesotho is under tremendous amount of pressure. Lesotho Prime Minister Samuel Matekane on Wednesday announced that his government is actively removing barriers for US companies to operate in the country, including satellite internet service provider Starlink, a subsidiary of Elon Musk's SpaceX. Now, this is probably crazy, right? Something you didn't expect. And this is crazy because Lesotho had a legitimate reason why they refused to issue the visa to Elon Musk. And we're going to find out why we're getting to this. Now, after the Prime Minister spoke about trying to return into their decision, this bid has sparked strong local opposition. Vodacom Lesotho Managing Director Mohale Relebitso raised concern about what's going to happen. What they're saying is, do not fold. Do not fold right now. Okay, let's try to understand what this is about. So on February 2nd, US President Donald Trump imposed 50% tariff on imports from Lesotho, the highest among all affected countries in Africa. So basically, Donald Trump came all of a sudden and said, from now on, Lesotho, here's Lesotho on the map.
Yo! Lesotho! Lesotho!
For those of you who don't know, I know you saw it earlier. Donald Trump said from now on, you're going to get 50% tariff on your export. Why is this important? 50% tariff on your export. You're probably asking yourself, what does Lesotho export to the United States of America under AGOA? Lesotho is one of the biggest denim producer in the world. What is denim? Jeans. In simple English, they produce a lot of jeans, some of the best jeans. Matter of fact, if you live in the US and you wear jeans, you probably wear jeans coming from Lesotho. Yeah, now you know. In fact, many American companies are stationed in Lesotho. They have factories and industries in Lesotho. Some of them are Calvin Klein, Levi Strauss, Gape, and many others. So these companies hire about 12,000 people in Lesotho. And that's a great number of people that are earning a salary. Why Lesotho, you're asking yourself? Why would Levi Strauss not just hire Americans in America, but go hire people in Lesotho, an African country? Well, it's very simple, because in Lesotho, they're going to pay a very cheap price compared to Americans working for them. And under AGOA, which is the African Growth Opportunity Act, which allows many African nations to export into the United States tax-free, for these companies in America, it's such a great opportunity because then they can hire somebody in Africa to do the job and export into America without having to pay any expensive price to Americans. You know, Americans think other people across the world don't need money. They'll take peanuts. So let's do that. That's exactly what's happening in Lesotho. However, as much as Lesotho produces so much jeans, Lesotho has linked its economy greatly with the jeans production that takes up to 10% of the GDP of the country. So that's a lot of money. Now, When Trump said, I'm going to put 50% on your exports, it means your jeans will cost 50% more than usual. Let's say your jeans cost $100 to buy. If they put 50% tax, it means your jeans will be $150. And that's detrimental for both the manufacturer, who are Lesothos, and the buyer. Because then, the buyer will refuse to pay $150 for jeans that you used to pay $50 for and rather choose another company. Now, when that happens, then the manufacturers such as Calvin Klein, Levi Strauss and all that will say, you know what, then we need to find alternative countries where we can produce our jeans. Maybe we shouldn't be using Lesotho anymore. And they will perhaps turn into Vietnam or Mexico, who doesn't have any tariffs on them. In the same token, these companies and factories in Lesotho will close. And all of these people will go into unemployment. And that's going to be a tremendous fall for Lesotho. Lesotho decided to send people to the US to go and negotiate to find a way to make this happen. The Prime Minister is saying they are ready to open up to every company of the United States of America, including Starlink. Now let's talk about Starlink. What is Starlink? Starlink is a company that belongs to Elon Musk. It's an internet provider via satellite. Elon Musk went to Lesotho to apply for a license for Starlink, wanting to operate in Lesotho. However, the response of Lesotho was, in order for you to operate in our country, you need to sell us 30% ownership of your country to Lesotho. That's policy of the country. That's part of the constitution. Every company that comes from elsewhere, that comes into Lesotho, has to sell 30% equity to the country to enable people of Lesotho to make money. As simple as that. Now, Elon Musk refused to do that. He refused to obey by the rules. The same thing he did in South Africa. He wanted a license for Starlink in South Africa. South Africa has a very similar law that says 30% of big companies must sell their ownership or equity to black people in the country. Because black people have suffered in that side of the world. Number two, because it's their country's policy. It's for you to take or leave. Now, Donald Trump, clearly good friend to Elon Musk, has found it as an opportunity to apply pressure on Lesotho without necessarily saying one of the reasons why we're applying pressure on you and issuing you 50% tariff on your export to the United States of America is also because my friend Elon Musk came into your country asking for license and you refused to issue it. A local organization advocate in Lesotho, he pointed that many companies in Lesotho are actually living by the rules. Here the example he said. He pointed existing telecom players as example of how foreign investment can coexist with local interest. Econet Telecom Lesotho, he noted, is 70% owned by Econet Wireless Global, with the government of Lesotho holding the remaining 30%. Vodacom Lesotho is 80% owned by Vodacom Group, while the remaining 20% is held by Sekameti Consortium, a group of local Basotho business people and public figures. So they're trying very hard to empower the people of Lesotho by owning 30%. They're not asking you to give. They're saying they're going to buy it so you don't have monopoly, and also allow the people to grow because you're using the market. Well, now the pressure is so much. You know, I can pressure you without necessarily telling you why I'm pressuring you. Yeah, when they're with the woman and the woman doesn't act in a certain way during the night, and during the day the man becomes weird. He greets her like he's a friend, like, hi, how are you? You know what I mean? But the woman, like, why you greeting me like this? Well, because last night there was no action. That's the reason why I'm greeting. You know what I mean? A lot of men do that. So it's a very similar thing. We're putting 50% pressure on you, 50% tariff on everything we export, and you figure out what's the matter is, what's the problem. Because we're not going to say what the problem is. You have to figure this out. Prime Minister Mwekassa says government has been lobbying for tariff relief and reinstatement of development aid. He positions Starlink's license as part of broader effort to attract US investment. We're actively removing obstacles to US investment, addressing this issue like Starlink, energy and hospitality investment approval. So basically, does this mean we are folding under pressure? 50% is way too much. That means 50% of our people's bread and butter. 12,000 people going jobless. A big chunk of the GDP going away. Even though we are within our right, saying that Starlink should issue us 30% of ownership, we are folding because we were not prepared. Is this a matter of non-preparedness? Because many people believe African countries should be able to deal with each other, trade with one another, sit down, actually consult one another, because the continent is big. We have about 54 different countries to whom you could export jeans and many other things. Why can't Africans do this? Why haven't Africans sat together to try help each other? Will South Africa be next? after Lesotho folded with the 30% ownership, giving Elon Musk 100% ownership. Because number two, there's an issue in terms of security. As a service provider, they have your data, they have your calls, they have your identity. Wouldn't this be a threat to national security if the company is owned 100% by a foreign nation? Remember in Ukraine did something Musk didn't like. What did Musk do? He shut down the internet. Will this be next in Lesotho? Let's get back to South Africa. Will South Africa be forced now, since Lesotho is moving towards issuing license without the 30%? Will this put pressure on South Africa into accepting? Because if Lesotho accepted, how about you? Who are you? Now, will this be a strain in the relationship between Lesotho and South Africa? Because where South Africa is standing strong, Lesotho seem to start stumbling. Let me know how you feel about this. It's always a great pleasure. Do you really think these taxes and tariffs are really supposed to be fair on America? Or is it a lever? Is it a way they're using to push countries to move into the American direction? If you don't do it, then you suffer. What are the solutions according to you? God bless.